today we are going to be talking about the 1996 Michael Bay / Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson film, The Rock. Ben, let's just dive in to this.
Yeah. So I'm going through Bay's filmography, and this is solidly my favorite Michael Bay film. I think in the 2 spot, I might have like 13 Hours. The Benghazi film. But as far as like a pure, like a little bit over the top actioner from him, this is the one that I prefer. And I was reminded of that when I watched it again, that it's just a really nice combo of like the best of Michael Bay with 2 actors in it that elevate the material exponentially over what it could be. Fairly interesting premise, iconic location, the bowels of which get like kind of ridiculous, but I love that about it. So, and they even call attention to itself, like that the like cage has a really funny, like, that was really cool, you know, when you roll through the furnace swinging thing. But no, I go back to it and it's a lot of fun. But I was thinking when I watched it back, how much lesser of a film I think it would be for me if it did not have the level of acting that you get in the role of Hummel with Ed Harris, and then obviously Connery.
Oh yeah.
If
absolutely.
you take both of those guys, like if you still have Connery, I think you've still got a really good movie. If you take Connery away and you still have Ed Harris, like I don't know who you put in that role. It doesn't have the gravitas.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
That's who they actually went.
Is that who they wanted?
They wanted Arnold in that role instead of Connery. It would have been a very different movie, I think.
I think it still would have been good, but
different.
Very different.
Because you lose out kind of on the hint that Connery's character is kind of a James Bond who's been caught, during some side mission or whatever. An
Austrian agent doesn't have quite the same ring to it.
Doesn't.
So no, I love it. It was, and I'll get into some more things, but I want your kind of initial take on The Rock. It's getting old, man. It's like an old movie.
Oh, it is. It's terrible. So this movie will always have a very special place in my heart because this is the movie that got me to decide that watching movies in widescreen was better than watching them in full screen. And no joke, up until this movie, I would pick full screen over widescreen. I hated widescreen. I didn't like it. I didn't like having the bars. I wanted the full frame. And so I actually had I saw this movie on full screen. I don't know if I had it. I mean, it was R-rated and I saw this in high school. So I didn't see it in the theater, but like my parents let me watch this and I'm still like a little like, okay, but I'm very, very happy they did. But somehow I had watched it a bunch of times full screen. And then I go over to my buddy Anthony's house and we're like, we hung out all the time and we're like, watching Face Off and Con Air and all these. And finally we're like, let's rent The Rock. We went to the Blockbuster Hollywood Video local thing, rented The Rock. And he was like, he got the widescreen version. Didn't know it. I would have fought him to get the full screen version, but he got the widescreen version. And I'm watching this and I'm blown away by how amazing it looks. And just that getting all in the frame. There's things that I noticed before that I never like. It was cut, and so I'm like, oh my goodness, that's why this happened. Oh, I didn't see that guy there because he wasn't in frame in the full screen. Like oh, this now makes all much more sense. And so I was like, and it's also I love this movie. Out of all those like Con Air, Broken Arrow, like all those like 90s, like this kind of action style, like Face Off kind of feel to it. It either has like Nick Cage or John Travolta in it or something. This is my favorite, hands down. It is beyond. So this again has a special place in my heart because it made me switch. And then it was like widescreen for everything.
Well, that makes sense because it's not, this movie is not like 185. This is like 235 ultra widescreen. So, well, we would have been at odds with each other because I was always buying like VHS of, and we're obviously dating ourselves. I mean, hell, I've got coworkers that weren't even born like when this movie came out, and just the way it goes. But no, it's awesome. I love the cinematography in this movie. In fact, I was watching it going, they don't really shoot movies that look like this anymore. I don't even know if the most cinematographers working today could even like recreate the way this movie looks or would want to. It's kind of the height of like stylized 35 millimeter film. And they weren't afraid to like go pretty blue with sequences like underneath in the bowels of Alcatraz. Like it's got this very distinct like blue light to it. They'll do like blue and green washed lighting for in like the FBI commands. By the way, I laughed so hard. They show this giant mobile command center, right, that they're in. It's like this oversized van thing. Half of it's opened up. It looks like a G.I. Joe toy, right? It's so big. And then on the side of it, like really distinct like font, it says FBI. And I'm like, why would this need to have FBI on it?
It's like the last thing that you want to put on it.
That seems like something that Don Simpson or another producer is like, oh, that the audience isn't going to know what that is.
Yeah.
You got to put FBI on it. But yeah, they're not afraid to go kind of a little heavy handed with some like washed color lighting. And it's all done in camera. That's not anything that was done in post. But all the skin tones are so nice and rich in this movie. And that's where I think outside of like Tarantino, maybe Christopher Nolan, who's the director of like There Will Be Blood? Who still shoots film? Gosh, I'm blanking. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
anyways,
my goodness!
But these are guys.
Keep going.
Anderson.
Yes, it's not Wes. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul Thomas. Yeah, those guys really like appreciate good, rich saturation. Really healthy, like very rich skin. The faces are almost like exposed a stop under like where you would normally expose somebody's face. And so you get I was watching like the end scene where Ed Harris is being confronted by like the two rogue captains and they're like telling him to like stand down because they've realized that like he's like, they've called her bluff. Like, are you crazy? I'm not going to kill civilians. And I just noticed like how rich everybody's, and they're shot in hyper close up anyway, which Michael Bay tends to do for intense dialogue sequences. It's like he'll even do the thing where he like cuts the screen here at the top of the forehead, and you just get down in here for really real intense sequences with dialogue. And I was like, man, there's so few movies that even look like this anymore. Everything's like not as contrasty, brighter, and I'm like, man, I kind of miss this aesthetic because the whole movie is just super dialed in, and they use a lot of the movie looks like a Tony Scott film because they use a lot of the graduated filters that basically force like a sunset look at the top of the frame, even though they shot it like in the middle of the day. You use the graduated filter and it's like real warm at the top, and then kind of the bottom of the frame has less of that. They use it in Top Gun, the original Top Gun, like half the movie's using that. So all this to say, I love the way The Rock looks. And that look kind of perpetuates some into things like Transformers. And in fact, watching it, I was like, man, this feels like an audition piece for Transformers with the way he like glorifies the United States military. Like just every other Michael Bay film looks like a recruitment like tool.
Hey, maybe they're investing. Maybe that, he's got to give them their due.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, he came from, we had talked briefly about, you get a different look from directors who did music videos, and that's where he came from. He did a ton of different music videos in the 80s and like early 90s. And then I think like it was like mid 90s he did the switch, because I know he like did Bad Boys right before this, and obviously did this. And then he went on to do Armageddon. And of course, the amazing Oscar winner performance of Pearl Harbor. That
Pearl Harbor sucks. And I miss you.
So true. But anyways, I do think Michael Bay does get maligned a little too hard. And for a lot of his stuff, I'm never going to say his movies are the best thing out there, but this is fantastic. I did really like Bad Boys. I really like The Island. I thought was also really good. I do actually enjoy Transformers. The first one is actually, I think, a lot of fun.
The first one's really good, actually. I think.
I think they get, the other ones kind of get a little off. And I know he only did like 2 or 3, and then the other ones kept his kind of aesthetic. So I think they get attributed to him, even though they're really not his movies. But anyways, I digress. I do. You talked about the story. I do really like this story a lot. And one of the things I really actually love about the story is that the villain isn't really a true villain. Like and I think that is you have a lot of these in these action films, especially in the 90s. You had that kind of, this guy is evil. Like this guy puts, babies' heads on spikes, so he's evil. Like, and in this one, you really don't have that kind of evil aspect. And I think Bruckheimer does like that too, because I'm obviously like, Crimson Tide, he kind of has that villain who's not a villain.
The Pirates films are like that.
Yeah, where it's like they're either misunderstood or, like he's got something that you can understand. He may just be going about it the wrong way, but he's like, because, Ed Harris's character, Hummel, just wants to have his troops recognized for their service, and they're, fallen, and have their, their wives and families compensated for that. And I totally get that. Like, I understand that, and he's tried to go through the regular routes and decides to do this. But then of course, when it comes to it, he's like, it's all a bluff. I'm not killing people. Like, this is ridiculous. No. Like, well,
there's a really important scene at the beginning of the movie, that keys in why Hummel even is doing what he's doing. And it's the fact that his wife is dead. If she was still alive, I don't think he goes through with this plan.
Yeah. Well,
but he's a widower and fed up with the Pentagon, has been running. I love when he puts that guy in his place. That's like White House, like staffer. It's like, I was running Black Ops in China and you were still in diapers. Somebody shut him up because he's wasting my time. Yeah. Ed Harris gets like probably some of the best dialogue. He's the most interesting character in the movie for me, even more interesting than Connery's like disgraced SAS, which by the way, that makes no sense that he's SAS.
Yeah.
None. He should be MI6, but it's almost like they did that as like, just to like throw away the great fan theory that he is like an imprisoned James Bond by making him SAS. But
I think they wanted to hint at it, but then not.
Yeah. It's like, no, SAS wouldn't be operating like undercover in the United States. Like, that's MI6.
Yeah. That's not how this works.
No, but Hummel is amazing. And it's a credit to Ed Harris. His performance is so dialed in. And who's the actor that is like his second in command?
Yes. He's like from The Negotiator. I've seen.
He's a really good actor. Yeah. I remember
him. Plays Baxter, Major Baxter.
Yeah. He's really good. And he's got his back hold the whole way through. You have that like head fake moment where he's like, you think he's betrayed him. And it's like, no, this guy's like, they're blood brothers. But
they had served in Vietnam together.
Yeah.
They talked. Yeah. So quickly going to that scene where he dresses down the White House chief of staff. Like, there's I own this DVD, so I watched all of like the behind the scenes stuff and like all the deleted scenes, like everything for all like those 6 DVDs that I had. But there's like a whole scene where like Michael Bay's having Ed Harris do this, and like obviously the camera's on him and he's sitting behind him, and Michael Bay's just making him do it again, like sound angry or whatever, and like yelling at Ed Harris, and Ed Harris is just seemingly getting more and more frustrated because he's like feels like he's gotten this dressing down, but he's like, no, you got it. Like he's like, be more angry, and he's like, no, don't. That's too angry. Like be more like upset, and he's like going all over the part till finally it's like he breaks and just delivers a line and ends up actually breaking the phone too, like the prop phone that he was using at the same time.
And then Bay's like, print, we got it.
Yeah, we got it. That's it. He just frustrated Ed Harris enough to get him to where he wanted to be. But I do agree, like Ed Harris it's a perfect casting for this. Like he just plays it so well. And I do like they don't hide it from you that he's bluffing, but they don't really let you believe it. Like there's the moment in the beginning. Obviously, you talked about his wife died, which is very obviously reminiscent of Hunt for October, because that's why Sean Connery, took it, because his wife died too. So, but there's the moment when they go into the base to steal the VX gas and the rockets, and they lose a guy, and you can see the emotion on David Morse's Major Baxter's face of losing the guy, of like, get out of here. Like he just looks at the soldier dying. And then of course Hummel walks in, looks, and Ed Harris plays it super straight, like almost no emotion. Like you can kind of see like the pinched, like I lost someone, but he's like, the mission is superior. And you're kind of like, wow, that's almost a little cold. Like maybe you could kill these people, but he doesn't play, like, again, he played it so kind of neutral that it's easy to kind of float back and forth of like, will he actually kill these people? Will he not kill these people? And I thought Ed Harris is just phenomenal in this role.
Yeah. The moment that you realize that he's probably not interested in actually following through is how he handles the SEALs in the shower room.
Yeah.
With Michael Biehn, which is a great sequence. So intense. The edit in the whole movie is really good, but the edit I felt like in that sequence is just spot on. The dialogue interplay between, he's like, tell them to engage the safeties on their weapons and stand down. And Bane's like, I agree with what you're doing, but I swore an oath too, foreign and domestic. I can't give that order. And that scene's just so intense. And that the Marines have got the high ground. It's just fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
Although somebody did correctly point out, I think on YouTube, that the SEALs did manage to kill one guy. Like he's like off screen in the back. They did pop off around and did get one. So because I think there was like an argument of, man, the SEALs didn't kill anybody in that sequence. It's like, oh no, they did, but like he's like in the back. But yeah, it was like
they all got cover. They got the high ground. Like so yeah, it's
by the way, I think this is I did a count. I believe this is the third role that Biehn plays a Navy SEAL.
It is.
Because I counted Navy SEALs opposite Charlie Sheen. Kind of a goofy movie, but it's kind of fun 80s schlock. And then he's an evil Navy SEAL in The Abyss. And then he plays the SEAL leader in this film. So just total Hollywood typecasting.
Hey, it got him roles, got him money.
He's really good in this. And viewers would have had a familiarity with him from the Terminator and The Abyss, and he was a fixture in some action films. So like he feels right for the role as like a SEAL head. Yeah,
he plays it really well too.
Yeah,
the story goes though that he was actually super nervous on this shoot because in the Navy SEALs, there's actually real Navy SEAls in there. And obviously
with him,
in his group on the thing. He got really nervous. He's like, how am I supposed to lead these guys? They're real Navy SEAls. Like I'm an actor, and so he got really nervous. And I guess someone or Michael Bay took him aside, was just like, who they're here making a paycheck. Like, they don't care. They know this is fake.
If you do something super egregious, somebody will pull you aside and be like, hey, you might want to think about doing that this way. But so it was one guy. There's one guy that's, oh no, he's not a SEAL, There's a member of Hummel's crew that's also that plays special forces in Clear and Present Danger.
Oh, yeah. He's also in Training Day. He plays, one of the,
you ever, yeah.
And then he's in Breaking Bad too.
Yes. Yeah, I think he is. Yeah.
Crazy 88, I think, or we're like near the beginning.
Yeah. I forget the actor's name, but this is.
It's definitely a great cast of people. So it's like it's.
But something I noticed on this viewing that I just never paid attention to, and it's because we've learned more about Nicolas Cage, like as an actor and his methods and especially his eccentric nature over the last, I don't know, say like 5 to 10 years, probably 10 years. I've noticed that like he's just like making it up. Like and that's not something I would have noticed the first time I've watched this movie and saw him. You just think he's playing it the way Bay kind of maybe wants him to. And it's like, no, I don't think so. His just idiosyncrasies of like throwing just 100% of emotion on like one word to like close out a
Zeus's butthole.
Yeah.
Which actually wasn't in the script, apparently.
Of course
not.
Of course it wasn't.
The majority of this was not supposed to be a funny film at all, and supposedly most of the comedy was like Connery and Cage just kind of like riffing off each other.
Connery's got an amazing line at the end when he's pulled him out of the water after they've blown up like part of the island, and he's like, it's like. This is like the second or third time I've saved your life. I can't even believe you made it through puberty.
Well, I also love his thumbs up. Like, I don't know how you make a thumbs up sarcastic, but he does. He's just, like it just, it's the best. Like Connery just shows why he's amazing. This.
Oh yeah.
But I do really like Nicolas Cage in this. I think he plays that kind of geeky science guy turned, a little bit kind of action into this. I mean, he plays like that moment where like they're in the rail car. Like this is my favorite moment of the film. It's so small, but every time, like I made my buddy Anthony rewind this like the first time I watched this like 7 times because I just was cracking up laughing. But they're in the rail car, right? That's about to fall off the cliff or like fall off into the little hole, and Cage jumps and gets in that little cart thing that's hanging. And he's like they're talking to each other as Connery's hanging off of the rails. And he's just like, he sticks his head over. He's like, they're coming. And Connery's just like, where? And Cage doesn't pop back up. He just points his finger out of the stage down. And I don't know why, but every time I see that, I'm like, this is the funniest thing ever. Like it is. Well, it is great.
I just find half the stuff that's supposed to be underneath Alcatraz just utterly fascinating. It's a cross between, it's like a prison that exists in the world of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It's all there. Like you've got the little minecart ride from Temple of Doom, and you have that thing he's got to roll through, which reminds me of like Harrison Ford kneeling in Last Crusade. Yeah. Like just weird stuff. It's like, I love that there's just a reckless like nature to this movie. Like I think that just works. It's just both from the script standpoint and then Cage just doing whatever he wants. And then Connery kind of playing along.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I mean, the two of them doing them together, just having those conversations. And I do say that the underbelly of Alcatraz is the only kind of not low point, but it feels like a set. Like it very much feels like kind of built. The rest of it, they did a great job of making it feel real or lived in. I mean, or they shot mostly on Alcatraz. And apparently the trailer on Alcatraz, Connery didn't always want to like go back across the bay to his hotel. And so he would just sleep in his trailer. He wanted like a room on Alcatraz to like have, and Alcatraz was like, no, it's not built for that. You can't do it. So he's just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to sleep in my trailer and then just be here for set. Cause it was like, it took time out of his day so he could sleep longer.
Oh yeah. You got to get on that boat. And
So
because it's a good ways out there. I mean, it's not.
I don't know how long it is, but I know it's not like a quick ride.
No, I think it's probably at least 20 or 30-minute boat ride, depending on how rough the bay is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what's not to like? Iconic center set piece.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, like, do they ever? Is it just a plot hole for me, or am I missing something? They just kind of like explain away like all the hostages that were like still on there.
I mean, they all lived apparently. Like they had like a little.
But they don't like ever
get rid of them. No, yeah,
they don't like show them. Like it's just. Meh.
There's when they get held, and then there's like one other moment they show them. But other than that, it's like we don't care about them. We just care about the millions of people.
Because I was thinking about it when Connery's like tossing that rope with like that that bearing or something on it to get the cell to unlock while Cage is Zeus's butthole. Did you get out of your cell? I would thought that they would have like cut to him freeing them since they were in some other cell block, but maybe it was a different part of
that wasn't their mission. That wasn't their mission.
No, forget the hostages.
Forget the hostages. This also has a ton of quotes, a lot of amazing quotes when she's just like, but it happened, Stanley, it happened 7 seconds ago. Gosh, kind of lots happened since then.
Yeah.
And then of course, the whole like losers always whine about their best. That's
winners. The prom queen.
Yeah.
She was the prom queen. And he's like, really? Yeah.
Or like always like the line when after they're in one of the like small towers or whatever, and they kill the guy with the like air conditioner unit coming down on his head and his foot is thinging. He's just like, he says, is that normal? He's like, yeah, it happens. And he's like, can you do something about it? And Connery's just like what? Kill him again?
Kill him again.
Oh, there's so much that I love about this film. There's so much it's just fun. It's like, for me, it's the pinnacle of like the 90s action films. Like this is where it really like meets. You get a great soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, in my opinion, some really classic stuff. So much so, there was a moment like right as they start their car chase at the beginning, the notes in that soundtrack are very reminiscent of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Which the first one of his underlings, one of Zimmer's like proteges did the first Pirates. And then Hans Zimmer was like, well, you're just basically ripping my stuff. I'm just going to do the rest of them. And so he did. But it is spot on of very much Pirates.
I do like Connery's character, Mason. I do like he's got his own little score motif in it that's real. It's real light, kind of Scotch, English, Scottish kind of feel to it. But they use it a couple places. Like they use it while he's trying to meet his daughter, but then they use it again when he rescues Cage. Yeah. And it's just a nice touch. It's like it's very traditional scoring where you would give characters their own score. Very, very almost John Williams-esque in that regard, giving each character has its own little motif. It's high level, like kind of like all the way through for an action film. Like it feels like something that John McTiernan would have done. Like it feels like the mantle has kind of been
passed.
The baton's passed to Bay for a time. But you had Bay. I don't know. I've kind of Face Off is what? Woo,
yeah.
Who I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Woo. I like Face Off, but
yeah, I was gonna say there's not much else besides Face Off that I really like.
Because I didn't care for Wind Talkers. I just thought that was just ruined the material. Like
absolutely.
But, this is. I agree with you. The end of the 90s run of like action films, I think this is probably the best one, or at least my favorite.
Yeah.
Objectively, I don't know if I can make a argument that it's necessarily best, because you go from this more conventional and the next big action film is The Matrix 3 years later.
Yeah.
And that's very, very different. So after that, we've kind of, I don't know, the action genre seems to be in trouble at the moment, but
yeah. And I mean, you got away from, you got a lot more of the more historical or World War II stuff. I mean, obviously you had like Black Hawk Down come out, that's not more of a war, obviously a war film, not really an action film. You get away from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And but it did well. I mean, $75 million budget and worldwide box office of $335 million
for hard R-rated film. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a hard R-rated film.
No, it's great. Yeah. This is like my favorite of the Cage stuff too. Like
the Cage like trio
of, I like Con Air. I like Face Off. I appreciate Gone in 60 Seconds. I'm probably not as big a fan of that movie as some other, the other actioner from the 90s that I would put up with this though would be Speed.
Yeah.
So,
and that's more of like a thriller film in a lot of ways, and even an action film. I mean, like there is obviously action in it, but it's definitely much more about the bus scene.
But the 90s, dude, I mean, the 90s were amazing for this stuff. I mean, Air Force One, Armageddon.
I mean, you have True Lies in it as well. Yeah. Which is fantastic.
So the question is, do I like this
over True Lies? Yeah.
Over True Lies? I don't know. True Lies is a lot funnier movie than this. Even as funny as the interplay is between Cage and Connery, True Lies is like much more of an action comedy. I'd say this is more of a traditional straight shooter action film. So I don't know. It was a heck of a decade for.
Yeah. Again, we kind of got spoiled growing up, man. Got spoiled with some of these great stuff.
Yeah. What a weird name, Stanley Goodspeed.
Yeah. Like they did it just so he could have Connery can do that. You know where it comes from? Godspeed. Yeah. I don't get it. Yeah. And you of course have the late great John Spencer as the FBI director.
Womack.
Womack. Yeah. Who does a great job.
He does. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that scene. I love a bunch of scenes, but I love where Mason smashes the quarter and then uses it to cut out the one-way glass and then sticks his head in there. Womack, I might have known, you piece of.
Yeah. Oh, because vaporized. A body can do that?
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Any last thoughts on The Rock?
No. I mean, it's weird. Like the other actors that show up, like McGinley from Scrubs.
Oh my goodness.
And then Tony Dodd that played, was it Candyman? Yeah, the Candyman.
Yeah.
So he's the other captain. I don't care for the younger captain, Captain Fry. Gregory Sporlater, I think. I'm sorry. Watch how he shoots his like carbine. It's awful. Like, I didn't have any range time. Like it comes off bad, but
yeah. Well, and I kind of like him, but he plays Melvin in Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito, and he's great in that, but a very, very different character.
Oh, okay.
So I saw that before I saw this, so it's always weird to see him in this and be like, hey, you're not really that bad. You're not,
Yeah.
But Ben, mercenaries get paid.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
They finish the job.
Oh.
Yeah, they set. It's funny because they set that up at the very beginning and like totally hinted that those guys would betray him. Mm-hmm. When those two guys come in, you come in very highly recommended. They're like the only two guys that he hadn't handpicked.
Yeah.
It's like
come on,
this isn't going to work out. No, sorry, Hummel. No. But yeah.
Yeah.
No. How about you? Any,
outside of just, I take pleasure in gutting you, boy.
I take pleasure in gutting you, boy.
Boy.
Who are these people?
I take pleasure in gutting you, boy. Oh.
Yeah, that's Cage just freaking riffing.
Just like, being Cage, yeah.
As fearless an actor as has ever lived.
Yes.
I mean, just completely...
Just does it his way.
Will do it his way. And most of the time...
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
It does. Most of the time, it works. It shouldn't.
But it does.
But it does.
Hmm.
And there's some genius there. It's there. Yeah. I mean, so, well, on that note, on the genius of Nicolas Cage as Stanley Goodspeed and other roles, we appreciate everybody listening to this week's episode as we recap, revisit, great mid 90s actioner with The Rock. Watch it again. Good times had by all. Funnier than you probably remember, and then the action is just as good as it's always been. The gunplay's
excellent,
fantastic. Sound design's top notch. Like, it's just a really good representation of a really good decade of action films out of Hollywood. So we appreciate you tuning in. We will be back again Monday with another entry. Until then,
thanks everybody.